In 7 months, 0.3 million. So you're gonna get started.
Right there. See.
And then right when you're done, you gotta.
This is Steve. Hello.
Hey, Steve, we haven't started yet.
Okay, thanks. I'm just getting myself tuned in here. So
No decisions. But not. Well,
You're gonna jinx it.
I don't think we can do it out loud.
You just have to test your auctioneer voice and see how far you can get at it.
We'll see. Before we start, I just want to, we don't have a sign up sheet for the public comments time. Is there anyone who wanted to speak during that period of time? Your name, sir?
Fred Ladden.
Okay. Anyone else? Nope, just Mr. Glenn. For tonight's Oregon Town Board meeting will come to order. And jump to the roll call.
Yeah.
Please.
Kate Black, absent. Carl Walzer,
Here.
Arlen Kai,
Here.
Steve Jernigan,
here.
and Lori Fitzgerald here. Thank you.
Steve, can you hear us okay?
I can. Am I coming in okay as well?
But tonight we're gonna do roll call votes for any of the votes, just so that we catch everybody's vote because of Steve and I cannot Zoom. But for these, for the agenda item number 3 and agenda item number 4, any objections to those? Okay, then without objection, the approval of the minutes, there are 2 sets of minutes. There was the board review minutes from last year and then also last month's board meeting. Those without objection, the financial report and documents are open. Item number 5, Mr. Gladden, you had something to say?
My name is Fred Gladden. My wife and I have been residents of the town of Oregon since January of 2011. During that period of time, we've been extremely pleased and felt very fortunate to be both living in the town of Oregon and been pleased with the services available to us. That included when the board decided to resurface the road that I'm on several years ago. That satisfaction somewhat dimmed when I heard of the hours that the recycling center was going to be operating under. I use the recycling center, quite frankly, just about exclusively for yard waste, grass and leaves in the fall. I don't know what process the board went through in terms of seeking input from the citizens of the town. I can just say that I was totally unaware of the decision to reduce the hours until I arrived at the recycling center one Saturday at 1:30 and found that it was no longer in operation. I can live with the reduction in hours down to basically 35% of what they previously were during the summertime. It's inconvenient for me, but it's something that I can work with. The problem is in the fall when I'm hauling leaves. And during the October and November period of time, I live on an acre of land that is surrounded by deciduous trees, and I get lots of leaves, basically about 12, 13 pickup loads a season. When I became aware of the fact that you were only going to be operating the recycling center for approximately half a day, 1 day a week, that will not work for me when the leaves are falling. The rest of the time, like I said, it's inconvenient, but I can live with it. I went so far as calling the director of the public works for the village of Oregon to see if there was some way that I could pay to use their landfill to dispose of leaves. And the answer was no, not if I'm not a resident of the village. And so I'm here basically just registering my concern about the manner in which the hours have been reduced, particularly the hours and also the elimination of the second day. That especially in the fall, the rest of the time is not a problem. So that's basically what I had to share with you. I simply don't know how you sought input from the citizens of the town to find out exactly what the impact would be, whether or not it was something that they were concerned over, etc. But I decided to come here and register my concern. So that concludes my comments.
Sorry, go ahead, questions. If you are not the only one that brings yard waste down there, I acknowledge that. What do you consider a reasonable thing? We're doing this balancing game of how much time it's open and when it's used and when it's not used. So, and everybody's sitting on their thumbs. What would be a reasonable hours in your opinion?
Well, a little bit later in the morning, basically, right now I'm juggling mowing my lawn and trying to get out there and mow the lawn on Friday to make sure that I've got everything bagged up and ready to come in on Saturday morning. I've got, my garage smells like a grass dump, in the evening, before I can get into to dump the yard waste. But like I said, I can live with that. It's the elimination of the second day. The Wednesday or any other day where you have at least a couple of days, and I'm talking primarily there in regard to hauling the leaves in October and November. That's about the only time where I've got a real crunch. I can live with the reduced hours during the summer, although they're not convenient. I'd be willing to pay additional dollars if that's the issue. I know that you've been faced with monetary constraints. Quite frankly, I always viewed government as being there to serve the people, but the obligation of the taxpayer was to give taxes to offset and so that government could provide services that the individual couldn't provide or weren't reasonable for an individual to provide. So I'm willing to pay if that's the issue. I don't know how you would work that out in terms of a coupon, but at least in the fall of the year, I'd be willing to pay. That's what I told the director of the public works in Oregon, that I'd pay them if I could just have that as an alternate when I couldn't get out to the recycling center.
I wanted to just say thank you for coming and sharing your concerns. And it has been a difficult decision to close the Torque. And as Arlen was saying, we're sort of in this transitional phase where we want to continue to offer particularly the brush and leaf disposal at the Torque. So I think we'll take your comments under consideration. And I try to say this to everybody in the town because I didn't really get active in town government until rather recently, but it struck me so strongly how there's so much going on. And the best thing I can tell anybody who's a resident, get onto our website and follow what's going on, because we do try to reach out and keep citizens informed. But in this climate we live in now, you can't reach everybody with just one method of reaching out. So that's one of the things the board, I think, is trying to work with going forward too, is to just try to get more connected, get people more aware, get people involved. The best thing you can do is come and talk to the board and talk to other residents and see how they feel and encourage them to.
Well, quite frankly, I'm going to make contact with a number of other people, and then I decided now that I'm not going to go out there and try to solicit anybody coming in, or I just come in and express my concern.
But
I
you
suspect
tell people, just talk about it, because I think before I got involved here, I didn't pay attention. I was working full time. But then once you start to get involved, you realize how everything's interconnected. As you were talking about the taxpayer and using the tax money to pay for services, we're facing a lot of challenges now for all kinds of reasons. Once you start to explore it, I'll just speak for myself. It's like going into a black hole. You see how all these things work together. So just thank you for your.
I suspect that you're gonna, in terms of just the yard waste, since that's basically what is out at the recycling center now. I suspect that in the spring of the year, when people are pruning their trees and cleaning the brush up and everything, there seems to be a lot of traffic early in the year, and then it just dies down during the summer months, and then it picks up again in the fall. And that's basically the periods of time that
And it's good to hear that. It's good to hear what the needs are.
Well, part of our discussions too have been about seasonal peaks, as you're describing, spring and fall. We haven't made any decisions or scheduling for that, but it's part of the discussion in trying to figure out what the right balance is in hours and days. So it's, what you're concerned about mainly, we've got on our list to talk about.
Well, that's reassuring. Like I said, I just don't know what I'll do in the fall. If it's just open the 3 or 4 hours on Saturday, but yeah, and I know that there are other people that are faced with the same issue, but anyway, that's good to hear. And like I said, I'm even willing to pay additional for it if that's the issue. And I know that again, finances are a problem. I don't know how you if it'd be a coupon system or what, but anyway, it's not, I'm not looking for something for nothing.
Yeah, and different ideas have been talked about, different strategies for collecting a nominal fee for that service.
Let me see, Steve, do you have any questions or comments? You're muted, Steve. That's Jennifer.
No, I'm asking him to unmute.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Can you hear me?
That's-
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're fine. Do you have any?
I really appreciate the comments. I know we've talked a little bit about, reviewing and seeing what needs that we don't know about. And this one, obviously very concerning, viewpoint that I'm sure many residents share. And I can assure you that this will be talked about very soon. I mean, I think this is important enough to dig deeper into. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Would you want, if you wanted another day, do you want afternoon hours? Is that what you're looking more towards? If it's another day, more afternoon hours,
Be a little bit,
PM hours?
yes.
Okay.
Extending Saturday maybe.
It won't be for me in the fall, because like I said, I'm basically collecting leaves, loading them in my truck and trying to get them unloaded. So if I can get one load out, that'd be basically the best I could do on a Saturday. The additional hours on Saturday, would be handy, but it's not, when I'm hauling leaves, it's not gonna solve the problem. Thank you very much.
Any other?
I'm sorry, Fred, what was your address? I didn't catch that.
6244 Crestwood Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Any other folks who would like to comment during this period, during this agenda item? Okay, thank you. Steve Root, Park Resort?
Thank you.
Last park meeting, we noticed that, we had a couple of Eagle projects that were completed. Now we're ordering new plaques, the honor board out here for that to happen. And Gloria Compton and myself, we helped the Girl Scouts. This was a fun day. Put in phase 1 of the little library at Hillcrest Park. Phase 2 is yet to come, and that's adding a bench to it. And then phase 3 will be trees at Hillcrest Park to replace the ones that we had to take down. As you probably all know, I made a list for the boys to do with all the parks, a list of things that, items that they can take care of. I will be adding it to that list shortly. And then for August, there will be no meeting. 3 members will be out of town, including myself. Last but not least, after 41 years, I am retiring from the park committee as park chairperson. Announced that tonight. I met my park committee. They all know it. I asked them if anybody wanted to step up and be park chairperson. They said no. And so whatever comes first, getting a replacement for myself or November meeting will be my last meeting. I've had a great 41 years. I've been very passionate about the park system that we've had here. And I'm very happy that I was a major part of putting them in place. And I thank the town of North for allowing me to do that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure we'll have more to say. You caught me by surprise, but thank you. You've had an amazing run here. The town is much better for you. Thank you.
I second.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you, Steve.
It's been an amazing run.
41
And
years.
there was, that he has taken the leadership and lead the parks quite some, to be proud of. Be a hard act to follow.
Okay, item number 7 is discussion and possible approval regarding ordinance 98, which is an ordinance relating to the maintenance of premises and structures in the town of Oregon. And this is on page 17 right there. And the brief history of this is there've been a few versions of it. And the one that we have now is, the one that we're looking at tonight is based on originally a document, I'm not sure what municipality we got it from, that Attorney Beckler reviewed. Then we had some changes from one ad hoc group that really stressed the importance of indicating that a situation should be hazardous before any kind of action is taken based on this ordinance. So that kind of language is in here. Some of the phrases that the group flagged as being either irrelevant or redundant or whatever are crossed off in this document. I would open it up to discussion if anyone has any questions or comments.
Question or comment that I have is that I question the necessity of this. This is going to become, we're able to give much our attention because of it will life and safety. That was resolved by Dane County Protective Services. And then it's able to get that situation. And I think this is something that's going far beyond. That's getting a little closer to like that standard for subdivision and not form. It's also something that I'm not so sure Jennifer wants to be arbitrating. Some stuff. That's so my question is
I would add to that specifically 5G. I think that's on page 18. 5G, where it says any plant, tree, or other vegetation that constitutes a hazard to any person such as dead or dying tree or vine. You know, I guess that what Arlen is saying is what does that look like and how would the town enforce it? You know, we are a small township, so we don't have a arborist or something of that nature on staff. So I guess how are we going to make that determination? Who's going to be making that determination? So that's where I question it, is if we get a concern in the office. You know, there's a lot of trees.
yeah, we have a lot of trees. We don't really have enforcement, except we don't have a police force. We have a part-time building inspector and fire. It's enforcement by fire department, building inspector, or police. This, I believe, some of the. Anyway, I just don't see that this is going to be doable. And while this was modeled after the town of Dunn, note that the Village of Oregon does not have such an ordinance. Does not. And so I find why that it is difficult, why we need it. And I'm afraid that if we start going after how some farmyards are maintained, or somebody's subdivision lot maintained, I think this is something where the neighbors need to be working things out.
I was going to say, I think a lot of things typically are negotiated between neighbors, but sometimes they can't be. But then again, you call the Dean County Sheriff sometimes or some other higher.
Somebody that can enforce something
Mhm.
and not. I don't think it's an ordinance in our parts gonna help.
Yeah, I kind of chuckled because when I was reading this to get ready for the meeting, I thought, oh, I hope nobody comes over here, looks at some of the stuff we do.
In this draft, this particular draft, what you're referring to though, I think is an earlier draft that did not emphasize the hazardous nature of just about
Yeah.
anything in here. Even Jennifer, even the one that you cited
Yeah,
is related to hazardous situations. Now, who defines that? You know, it's subjective, right? But I will say that we also have a noxious weeds commissioner, really. And that's really a parallel to this, is that who's to say this little patch of wild parsnip is really, you know, it's an invasive weed, it's a dangerous weed, but is it dangerous sitting wherever it is? But we've got something behind that to say, if neighbors can't work it out, then the town can get involved in whatever, okay? So the emphasis, I guess what I'm trying to get, the emphasis is only on hazardous situations, and that's why a lot of these sentences and paragraphs were struck from this draft, because they weren't specifying that there was a hazard in the situation. Now, hazard itself is subjective. But at some point, I think it's good to have a backstop. If there's a situation that gets out of hand, we may never use this ordinance. It may never come into play. But even the noxious weeds ordinance comes into play once a year.
It does, but one of the biggest violators of that ordinance is the town itself. We've got a tremendous amount of noxious weeds in our ditches. And we have a hard time controlling them. You know, we have our staff out there mowing and sometimes trying to spray over the objection of neighboring properties.
Right.
So I don't think we're getting it. I just think this is setting up a problem that I don't think we're capable of solving.
You see, Steve is. Oh, go
I
ahead.
just have to- As I recall, we've looked at this a couple times. And the first time we looked at it, that was the main concern, was that we didn't want it to be, I don't like the way your fence looks, kind of thing. So we tried to clean it up to make it just focusing on a structural issue that was was a life or death kind of situation. And so we're at like revision 2 or 3. of the-
Three or four.
Yeah, and it was, the idea was to take out the aesthetic judgment aspect of it, to just zero in on a situation where, because of concern about an unsafe home, we would have this, as you said, Carl, as something we could bring in to back up our concerns.
Right.
So that was the way I understood it at the time.
And the focus did change, you're right. In
Yeah.
earlier drafts, it was
Right.
almost verbatim from the town of Donahue.
Yeah,
It was almost verbatim, and they included a lot of things that were aesthetic
yeah.
judgment calls, and we don't want that, we want
The
that.
wording was too subjective.
And I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Jess or whoever it was, but somebody from the group really stressed that hazards would be the key part of this. That would be the tipping point, right?
Mhm.
It wouldn't be whether your barn was more faded than the neighbor's barn. It's got nothing to do with that.
Mhm.
It's got to do with dangerous
Just
situations.
so that we could help people who might be living in a very unsafe dwelling.
Right, right.
So
So
that
this-
was, we've been coming around to that full circle now with
Right,
this discussion.
And it's kind of the type of thing where you hope you don't have to use it. But if we went back 3 or 4 months with that one situation, if it hadn't been for family, my understanding is that family brought in the other agencies for assistance. It wasn't that's my understanding on it.
or whatever it is, the agencies were there to come in.
But, right, we can't rely on family always being the solution to some future problem. You know what I'm saying? So like, oh, there's a tree hanging over their neighbor's tree hanging over my house, and they're not cooperating, then it's a dead end unless we've got something like this and can at least assist in the situation.
One of the
Let me-
things that the building inspector kind of questions on page 19, let me see, it might be. On page 19, he mentioned the notice, and we list the public works supervisor. I guess the question became is the public works supervisor, you know, the qualifications for them to determine some of this, like a building inspector has gone through some training, has taken, you know, done some things. The fire chief also has done those kind of trainings. Is the public works supervisor, is there enough knowledge with what you're trying to do that they would be able to do this? That was a question he asked. So I just thought I would bring that up to everyone today. I know there's 3 names in there of 3 different people, but Arlen at the beginning said something about police. We do contract through police, so would that be a different enforcement arm than maybe that person? I don't know.
So I don't forget,
Yeah.
Steve, I didn't forget you. Do you have any questions or comments? And you're muted, not anymore.
Yes, I do. We talked about this particular issue at the, I believe at the Brooklyn, Oregon EMS and Fire Committee. And one concern, outlying concern from the fire chief was the accessibility of their trucks to get into a property that has overlying trees and things are way overgrown, in order just to get in there to make sure that they can do their job sufficiently to make sure everybody's safe. So I think so. I think this is an important part in there. And again, we need to be reasonable. The word hazardous would definitely fall in line there. But I think as it's stated, I think that would also help out, you know, the other services.
Any other questions?
This guy is here, who was out the draft.
Well,
For some reason, I can't hear what Arlen is saying. It keeps on breaking off. I don't know if that's me or.
Jessica is here, who was working with us on the first revision draft. And I did be asking,
go ahead.
we've been quoting her a few times.
Mhm.
Have you seen the latest draft?
No. Should I have?
That makes it a little bit tough to comment.
Yeah.
Is it among the attachments or?
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
I can summarize it for you, but you had in your draft.
Oh, I'm looking at it now. Thank
Okay.
you. And so the changes that I'm looking at came from where?
They were a combination of the formatting from the original ordinance, reviewed by the attorney, the emphasis on hazardous situations from your draft, and the removal of irrelevant passages from your draft. So, and that's about it. That's pretty general, but more or less that's what it is.
To the credit of the redraft, it is more emphasis to hazard.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That was my only concern, was that it be focused on safety and hazard.
And not the aesthetics, and I think we were talking about that, but you weren't here yet, I think, but and not whether somebody's barn is painted.
you know,
Oh, I
just,
did just paint my barn.
oh, well, now, there you go. You're safe for,
So now we can put that in.
you're safe for 20 years. Okay, any other discussion from the board? Let me make a motion to approve ordinance number 98, an ordinance relating to the maintenance of premises and structures in the town of Oregon.
Second, Jernigan?
Roll call votes for all, let's just make a.
Yeah. Steve, turn again.
I approve of I approve the way the way it's written.
Okay, I to approve.
Yes,
Walter,
I,
Armin Kai, and Lori Fitzgerald.
motion passes. The next agenda item is number 8, discussion and possible approval related to ordinance number 96. And it was entitled an ordinance relating to the management of town board meetings and subunits thereof. And we also, before you get to the, Jennifer's already there, before you get to the actual ordinance draft, there's a letter from Attorney Beckler on page 21 of the packet. He reviewed it, and his one point that he wanted to make in here was that where we mentioned notice provisions. Yes, we've sort of combined 2 different statutes, and he suggested we clean that up before we finalize that. So the section that he is referring to,
Is on page 25.
25.
Yeah, and I would, I would suggest, so how really the statute's moving is they're really moving in the direction of saying, if you have a website and you're posting it on your website, that is good. That's considered good. So I would go with his simple of one physical placement and placement on the town website. So we we post on the window here at the town hall, so someone can look at it, they come up to the window, and then we put it on the website. So that's where I'd like to clean up that, so if everyone's okay with that.
So we just have the 2.
It'd be the website and then the town hall
Okay.
window, yeah, yeah.
And we no longer are posting things in the Observer. I mean, it's
Only if it's
circulation.
required. There's certain postings that are required to be published, but towns they don't have the same sort of requirement that cities and villages have. So there are still some things, but not a lot.
It would seem to make sense.
Yeah,
The website is becoming more accessible.
so I would
Yeah.
just say we would change that section to reflect what our attorney is. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
The one physical location of the
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
Do we need to cite the statute? He cites it in his letter. I don't know that we need to cite it.
What I probably will do is he sends this to us in his, so I'd probably just send him back a response if everyone's
okay.
okay with it and ask him to amend it and send it back to us. And then as long as we've all approved it, then, it just, the wording would reflect what he's saying in this email.
Okay. Steve, any questions or comments?
no, I don't. Thank you.
Anyone? Or anybody has any more discussion? Anyone's willing to make a motion on this?
Yes, so move that we make the amendment to the ordinance as recommended by Attorney Beckler.
And Lori seconds. Any other discussion?
And then we're gonna approve the ordinance, or do you want it to come back and see it after he's made the? Thanks.
Now,
I think we did, and as long as you're okay with it, yeah.
is that simple? Then I would move that we make the amendments as recommended by Attorney Beckler. This.
Second simplify.
Could you repeat? It's breaking up again a little bit.
Just, it was a motion to approve the edited version of the ordinance.
Got it.
Just a change in the number of posting locations.
Got it.
All in favor, say aye. And I guess.
Aye,
Jernigan, are you to approve?
aye,
Walter?
Aye.
Arlen Todd?
Aye.
And Lori Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Number 9 is discussion of possible approval regarding the design and bidding of town hall office customer service.
I have nothing on that. We have met with Ed twice. Once we just went over the design of the office, and the second time was we went to, and I'm sorry, I can't remember, it's in some prairie. It's a company that they harvest office furniture from locations that have closed, and that's previously during COVID, a lot of offices closed, a lot of people didn't do it, work from home. And so they're able to rehab these pretty nice equipment and utilize that so that would be what we would be looking to do. So what we're hoping to do is have a couple quotes on furniture for you. Because that's what we talked about doing. One would be rehab, and one would be purchasing new. Let's get this.
Any questions for Jennifer?
Are we still scheduled to be putting this out to bid on the end of the month?
I would hope, so you would probably need to decide on a design, so we
Yes.
haven't got that yet, so that's what we're just.
So we're done that. Something that we already authorized. Set.
Item number 10 is plan commission reports.
I have right stage.
Brian Standing to connect you.
And our chair, the chair of the plan commission here. Comprehensive plan. Set it to. Our consultant, Brian Standing to be. Just get it scanned. And. They're looking at the. Significant hearings.
I'm sorry, things are breaking up here again. I heard very little of the last 30 seconds.
Happy with that situation.
Not sure. I don't know, can you talk louder?
Louder, what did you hear? Steve?
You know, I'm the last maybe 45 seconds or so, it's been very choppy. I couldn't pick up what was said.
Possible information to be forwarding the edited version of the comprehensive plan for with final edits to Brian Standing.
Steve, did you pick that up?
Not enough to comment. No, I'm sorry.
So let me try.
There you go.
So this is gonna help. I don't, but the plan commission approved to have the draft of the comprehensive plan sent to Brian Standing to be edited, minor edits. What the board is voting on tonight is not the final approval of the comprehensive plan, but we're voting to send it to public hearing on September 19th.
Okay, got it. Yes.
So do you? Let me ask just based on that, does the board have any questions or comments for either Arlen or Brian Standing or Tim?
overlook one important thing was that we had voted on scenario 1 or scenario 2. And the result of that vote, which was not to have the legacy parcels have the subdivision status, but to not change the comprehensive plan to scenario 2.
Right, so scenario 1 was the one that was approved by the planning.
Correct.
Is everybody's aware of that, Steve and everyone here?
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
So any discussion about the plan that's, the draft that's presented to us with the idea of moving it on to public hearing? Lori?
I think we're ready to move it on to public hearing.
I don't want to speak for you, but I assume that you would like to do that too.
We would very much like to do it. In fact, I would move that we move the draft of the comprehensive plan draft or the final draft of the comprehensive plan to public hearing on September 19th.
I would,
Exactly.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Steve Jernigan,
Yes, yay.
Carl Walzer,
Aye.
Harlan Kai,
I
and Gloria Fitzgerald. Then can I ask a question? So Brian, you're on the line, maybe you can help me with this. At that Tuesday, September 19th meeting, as a matter of finalizing, would we want the board then at the end of that public hearing to make the final approval then?
Yes, that's correct. So you should hold the public hearing first and then take action on the plan. Because if you hear things in the public hearing that make you want to change the plan or send it back to the plan commission, that would be your opportunity to do that. But you should certainly schedule the vote after the public hearing.
So that would require then for the board members to be here on September 19th, and I would set up the meeting as such that there would then be a vote, or that if you hear something, then we would send it back to the plan. Okay, that would be okay. September 19th.
September 19, let me just. I have no problem with that date at all. Good.
And so then that would be the final. So then, Brian, can you walk us through that? If the decision by the board is to go with that final on September 19th, and they're not going to send it back to the plan commission, how long would it take for the county then to act on that? When would the town be able to start?
The county would have to go through a 30-day public notice process, the same as the town. So the earliest we could do that would be sometime in October. It's probably going to take a little bit to draft an ordinance. I'll try and tee that up ahead of time so that we're ready to go as soon as possible. But it would probably take at least 30 days. So figure 40 days or so from the public hearing for the county board to act. Might take a little longer just for internal legislative process because we got to get the ordinance introduced and then schedule a ZLR meeting. So I think we could certainly do it by the end of the year. That would be my goal.
And then we got another item under the plan commission report, discussion possible action regarding a letter to Kirksey on the village of Oregon amendment. Jennifer, to Harlan, you want to tag team that?
Jennifer. At the beginning, when it came to the town, it was very controversial. So the letter that I gave you was from 2021, something that was put together at that time when when they came, they then, withdrew and they just did phase two, and I think they held up phase three, if I'm getting the big numbers correct. I guess that now they're going ahead with phase three, they made a presentation at the plan commission meeting, last month. And so this would be an opportunity if we're wanting to send such a letter again this time.
And that letter,
I handed it to you separately.
I think just a very similar letter to this one.
Well, this one talked about residents. We didn't have, the village has had several meetings at Village Hall about this leading up to it, so a lot of people have been notified. Obviously, the concern is that's been the most concern. It's the water that, you know, would be running down.
So who would draft the letter? Would it come from,
It would come
From
the
the-
top.
but who would draft it though? Would it be the plan commission? Would it be your office?
It would be us. We can draft it with what you want it to say.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, so we'd have to be notified what you would want to say. If you want to say anything. If you don't say anything, then we don't have to draft any letter at all, but this would be an opportunity. I think the date of that is coming up, so the letter would be due very shortly. I have a website. Oops. I think it's not.
Okay.
So this is just an opportunity. And I don't know if the plan commission talked about it.
we did not. So I'm trying to, what is it that,
Actually, Thursday.
what would be
This
the intent of the letter? Not necessarily what's saying. What are we trying to say?
I guess what we would try to say is what the concerns of our residents or of the town would be with any development in that area, which would probably mirror the same thing that was discussed in the February 1st, which is the items here: stormwater, flooding, traffic flow, any of these other things that. So if those are still concerns, if they're not,
Okay. And this is for the the presentation that was in July.
exactly,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
I would like to bounce this past, say we bounce this past the plan commission to see if they would like to take a kick at the cat. You have a draft.
Did you catch,
Be past the date.
did you catch that it's Thursday is
It's
the council
the
meeting?
We'll pass it.
No, well,
2 days.
we'll be past, we
It's
were
2
meeting
days,
past it.
2 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Would
Well,
there,
we had, if we're doing anything, we had sent these were the concerns of, for the development in that area.
and they would, I would presume they're still worth passing on, right?
That's why
You could
Suggested it.
probably basically just repeat this letter without, just change the date, I don't know.
almost, I think all.
I mean,
just
There's a lot of, their input from people that's, I'm sure. And it was reflected in the discussion in July, so the concerns about the water came out of, Dave Hageman was here and
Mhm.
so if it's a matter of expediency, Could it be quickly revised and?
Well, or maybe not even revised, well, if we just took the 2021 letter,
That's-
we have to short a cover letter on it and said, hey, we just want to reinforce the things that concerned from
Yeah.
years ago, and then still concerned.
Simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That would be a good thing.
And
Okay.
the only thing I'm thinking is if we did revise it, there'd be more comments and more people. If we have, I don't imagine there being fewer.
Cause I don't know if everybody on the video, it's the salient part here is there were 50 residents online, several spoke in opposition with the following concerns: stormwater management, current flooding, traffic increase, traffic flow management, parks without parking, wildlife disruption, property tax increase, and water quality. I think those are still concerns that are viable. And resending this letter. It's the same area, same concerns.
okay.
Does Steve have this? Oh. Okay, hey, Steve,
Yes, what page is that on in the packet? Could you tell me?
add-on, because probably we don't need to vote on it. But what we're gonna do is just reinforce with the village that, in an area where they're developing. Some of the residents, there were 50 residents a couple years ago, and there are probably more now that had concerns about water quality, various aspects of, water management. So.
Okay,
So if you're okay with that, we're gonna resend the letter.
I'm good with that.
But
It would be a letter to Carpsey.
to Carpsey, sorry, to Carpsey. So don't,
Put a letter together that would just basically say, we just like to reiterate our concerns from January of 2021 and same. letter. Okay. I'm gonna have to do some- And then if anybody wants to get on to that information. Don't have to watch it. That's on the agenda.
right, anything else on that part of the plan commission report? Okay. Agenda 11 is a look traffic safety.
This on inventory of having plans. Do not really have, we have not had maps of roads, conditions, and they are usually having a set of 4 maps. And Steve, you have yours, and among them are showing the road conditions. Green is great, yellow is warning, and red is we gotta do something.
Yes,
Oh, one here. So it's going to be setting priorities. We're starting inventory of what the infrastructure is on the roads, what they're made of. That's a start. We'll also start a map on hazardous intersections, emission problems. And it's map. One thing that we have. Don't really have intergovernmental relationships.
I'm not picking this up, Arlen, at all.
How do we, what,
Oh, that was worse because I just accidentally, did, so.
that's what I should be trying to do.
go somewhere up there.
Somewhere's up there. So, it's all right here, so also in jurisdiction. With Montrose, Fitchburg, the village, town of Rutland, town of Brooklyn, in Greene County. And, with, Brooklyn itself, and also we have some internal thing. Anyway, it's just getting an inventory of some of the issues. And that we could be making decisions. The primary thing right now is trying to have a schedule so we can be budgeting 2024 road construction or repairs. With an emphasis on repairs to extend the life of the roads rather than go to the big expense of rebuilding them.
Great, the maps are great.
And Mr. Crawford is here from the committee. Are we saying things okay?
You're stating it great, yes, I
Okay.
totally agree. And it's a lot of work, there's no question about
And it's something we need to have documented and not
Yes.
just be one person's responsibility.
Very good. I like it a lot. Steve, you're hearing okay now?
Yes, that was all very clear. Thank you.
Hold on one second.
We switched to TV speaker,
Oh,
switch it back to the 35.
okay, hold
window
on a
speaker.
second.
The share P3 file. Go back to that other option.
Steve, how about now?
Perfect. Yep, I can hear you very well. For some reason, Carl, like, especially you and Jennifer voices come in very clear.
Okay.
Greatly placed mics.
With that or all of it, this is informational, so we can always catch up to you later.
Right.
This is in progress and we're hoping that September, we're targeting September as having the recommended road work to the board, so that can be included in the 2024 budget.
Excellent. Jennifer, I was gonna jump to item 12, that in the packet, there's, oh, that's that's about the carp seed thing. You're from page 31 on.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
that's the presentation that they presented at the plan commission meeting.
Okay.
So that, you know, that might have changed from, you know, when they were first presenting in 2021, but this was, so I don't know if, you know, this is obviously the area that they're talking about that they're gonna be annexing, putting into the, first they have to put it into the urban services area. And then obviously here's the phases that they're going in for the development. And then, you know, this would obviously right here, this borders the town. Well, this is in the town right now. Then once it gets annexed, or
Right, building inspection report is item number 12, that's on page 43. Yes. They're all remodeling? Well, we could almost get it. Almost a given. We don't, it's just informational, there's no. What? Anything, okay,
Is this packet different than the one that's posted online?
there is a second, well,
So my
There
page
were-
numbers aren't aligning.
there was a draft.
Oh, there might have been.
I think it was updated.
Okay.
Today.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, oops, nope, take that back. Item number 13, board communication, any future agenda items to consider? Yes, no.
Right, but we're hoping to have the road recommended road thing.
Do you know the next date of your meeting?
I don't have it here. We do
Okay.
have it in a couple of weeks. So we do
Just
have,
let me know.
we do have an August meeting.
Before next month, no.
Before next. I'm afraid I don't.
Okay, you can just let me know.
Or any agenda items? Steve, any future agenda items?
Not at this time, no.
Item 14, clerk's report and loan update.
Okay, so, we'll change some of the loan. Funding, we're just getting the final approval for the new loan. For the road work done in Alpine.
And then item number 15, we're gonna do in closed session. So what that entails is that anyone who's not a board member, not the clerk, would have to call it a night. See you next time. And we'll also need to disconnect anyone on Zoom who is not Steve during.
What else?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
One for the annex, property, great way to let people stop, you know, what property to come up. I don't see any like something. So everybody knows. What's that?
No, it's a good idea. I think we have to do it.
You just sent me.
But it's the property owners. who-
I sent
I just want to make sure.
I sent it to
Yeah, but you don't really want to expand.
Yes, we
you.
don't have.
Don't have an intergovernmental agreement, but they do have it in their.
Are they gonna start paying us for that?
They say it's 3 years of taxes, 3 years of taxes on farm, it's like $7. 200. I'll send it to you. Right, send.
Just double check it.
Yes, yep, yep, perfect. I'll send it to you. Yep, got it, yep.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank
Should talk to you in a moment or.
you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So it's possible, I think this is possible to keep Steve's.
It's breaking up again. It was going so well. All of a sudden, right after you announce closed session, the audio got,
It's possible to stop the recording but keep the feed going. That's.
So what's that?
So what we want to do is Zoom connection, not recorded from.
Oh,
this.
sure.
But actually, I think we need, before you do that, I think we need a motion to go into closed session.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It has to be a control. Like from things. So who wants to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we move into closed session.
a second.
That's the statute, 19.35.
And that's at 7:07. And Steve, second to that?
Yes.
Then do we want to do a roll call vote? So Steve, are going into closed session, yes or no?
Yes.
Carl?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Lori? Aye. Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording now.